up for kind of a roundtable discussion. I want to start by saying, first of all, the events of the last several weeks have been very unsettling, not only for this university, but for the entire community. And they certainly have been very unsettling to me as the president of the university and as a member of this vital community. I feel compassion for anyone who has been affected by these events, and I feel compassion for anyone who feels that they are victims of what has occurred over the last 3 weeks. And I continue to feel very strong that anyone who is found responsible for their actions will be held accountable through the processes that are available. The University Student Conduct Code is a process for holding our students accountable, and I want to emphasize, I can't emphasize enough, that our code applies to each and every one of our students. And I want to emphasize that again, the conduct code applies to each and every one of our students. And so I asked the university police to do a very thorough job in investigating the allegations when they were made, and they did just that. And I'm very, very grateful for the manner in which they went about thoroughly investigating this issue. And it's now up to the courts to determine the guilt or innocence of the defendants. Then I want to end with just one point. I know some people want to know why my original statement was framed the way that it was. And the response to that is as follows. I had to go with the information that we had at the time. And that information was basically what was in the police report. We had no other information to go on. And the second issue is that I feel compassion for each and every one of our students. It's part of it's just part of who I am. It's part of how I have managed as an administrator all the way back from the time that I was a professor and even when I was in charge of student affairs. We always treat students with compassion. And the second thing that's important to emphasize is that we expect our students to tell the truth. It's a core value of any academic institution. It's fundamentally telling the truth. And so I called for an investigation, and that investigation revealed the situation that led to the appearance tickets on yesterday. And the other thing that I did was I reminded people to keep calm and to remember the commitments and the core principles of this university. And I wanted to, in that first statement, to tell people to keep calm and to remind them of our values, because I felt very strongly that will be the framework that people would just slow things down, because I think most of you would agree this situation at many different points in time had the great potential to spin completely out of control. And so that's exactly what we were trying to do by reminding people of our core values and calling for an investigation to really get at the truth, and then reminding people to recommit to our values. So just wanted to say that on the front end of this, and so I do want us to now engage in a conversation, Q&A about this issue. So again, we thank you all for being here.
Dr. Jones, good afternoon. Thank you for having us. I'm Dan Levy from News Channel 13. Wondering if you feel the university is within its rights to discipline the students before the adjudication in a criminal courtroom.
It's not only within our rights, it's basic practice within this university as a part of our student conduct process.
And so does that mean that you will be disciplining these students one way or another, even if they're found not guilty?
Well, I want to be clear. According to our student conduct process, anyone, I'm not talking about a specific set of students, because by law I cannot talk about a specific set of students. What I'm responding to is the fact that we do have a student conduct process through which any student that violates our student conduct code must go through. So I want to be very clear about that.
President Ayla Ferrum from Channel 10. You mentioned that your initial statements were based off the police reports at the time because that was, the only information that was available. However, I spoke with a student today who was also on the bus at the time who says he also filed a police report that tells a much different story. So what is your response to that?
I have no knowledge of an additional police report. This is the first I've ever heard of that. In fact, I'm not sure which police department he filed it with, but we have no knowledge of that.
Dr. Jones, do you have reason to believe that the young women involved in this incident, and of course mindfully you can't comment on specific students, but do you think there's reason to believe they're in any danger if they were to stay in school or to stay on campus?
Well, all I can say is that we have done all that we could to make sure that they're safe. We've made them aware of the resources that we have available and have reached out to them several times over the last several weeks to see if they have any concerns about their safety. And that's what we have done, and we've done that consistently.
And as far as you know, they're still attending classes, they're still enrolled?
As far as I know, they're still enrolled.
Now that
Is
comes-
the university aware of any threats to them? I'm sorry, I'm Jordan from the Times-Union.
Not aware of any threats to these young women at all.
No, those are the young women we're talking about. However, what about the one student who states he had to actually leave the school because he was receiving threats?
Well, that young man, as far as I'm aware, did withdraw from the university, so he's no longer in this community. So there's nothing that we can do if he's not a part of this community.
So there won't be any communication with him about...
We've had communications with him very early, when this event occurred, but I assume that since he's no longer at the university, that communication would end at that point.
Do you think this incident has in any way harmed the school's reputation?
Well, anytime you have something this unsettling, of course, it does harm. You only have to look at what's being tweeted and what's being played out in the media, what's being played out on TV to know that it's done some reputational harm. But at the same time, this is a very strong university. This is a university that is striving to move to the next level of excellence. And you only have to look at the things that we've rolled out this week in the midst of everything else that's going on. Plans for a new school of engineering. We've had a conference about the importance of data analytics and emergency management and homeland and cybersecurity. This is an amazing university, and that's one of the reasons I came here. It's a great university that's on the cusp of moving to the next level of excellence, and that's what we continue to work on. How do we systematically move the university forward, but at the same time manage this very, very important critical issue?
During your opening remark, you spoke of a code of conduct, and I'm wondering if you have any concerns about possible violation of the code of conduct regarding underage drinking from what you've seen aboard that CDTA bus.
As I said, there are several different issues that the code of conduct considers, and it's a long process, first of all. And I know that some want that process to go fast, but the code of conduct will be put into place, and any issue related to the violation of our code will be looked at.
So then, are you saying that every student on that bus that you can identify as a UAlbany student is being investigated for conduct or statements?
No, that's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying that if they're referred to the conduct process, will go through the established procedure for the code of conduct.
Dr. Jones, you addressed Kimberly from Channel 6.
Yes, Kimberly, good to see you.
You addressed your initial letter that you had released to the community on January 30th. Looking back at that letter now and just some of the outcry that we've heard on social media and from that one particular student who I'm sure you're aware of who published that open letter, who was upset about just the way things were worded. Looking back, would you have worded anything differently? Perhaps your word choice in using words like alleged or reported?
Absolutely not. I wouldn't, hindsight is always 20/20, they say, but I would not, at this juncture, do anything differently because, as I said in my opening remarks, we had to go with the information that we had at hand. We had to respond. The community wanted to know, wanted to hear from me about what happened. We felt it was our responsibility to remind the community of our values and remind the community that we were systematically going to be looking into this issue to get at the truth. And so wouldn't reword it anyway because I want to emphasize that one of the things that was in operation here was the whole issue, as I said before, that we, under this circumstance, you would think that given what was reported, what kind of position I would be in to question the veracity of the statement when it was given in a police report and it was recanting an incident that happened in a public place. And so we had no basis to make any kind of assumption that the statements were true to the best of our ability, and put out a statement that reinforced our value system and the fact that we would handle this systematically to show some compassion for the students that appear to be harmed, and to go about the process of evaluating this to get at the truth.
But you can understand why some may find it hypocritical in that first statement. There's no use of the word alleged. It says that these women were attacked, and then just a couple of weeks later to go on and say, oh, everyone should reserve judgment of these 3 women, when in fact those other people on that bus could have in fact felt like they were being judged based on what the university said in that first statement.
Well, I remind you that those individuals on the bus, no one had come forward, so there was no real way to identify those individuals other than one person who was falsely accused, is my understanding of that situation. In that statement, we said very clearly that the young women reported that this occurred to them. And so again, I emphasize the fact that I wouldn't, make that statement any differently, because we were operating on the information that we had. Someone had reported that they had been injured. There was evidence that they had gone to the hospital to be checked out. And so we responded out of compassion for what was in the police report. And it was the only other information out there. And I think to have responded in any other way that would have caused question regarding whether or not we believe them or not, it's not for me to decide whether or not their statements were true. We took them as they were stated in the police report and responded accordingly.
All right,
Many
folks,
students are asking for an
that's it.
apology.
I
Will
think
you
we're
be
done.
apologizing
5 minutes, 5 minutes.
for that initial statement?
5 minutes?
I'm sorry?
Many students are asking that you apologize for that initial statement. Will you be doing that at all?
No, I'm not.
At this point, are you satisfied that you've had ample opportunity to review all of the depositions, all of the audio tapes, and all the videotapes involving this incident?
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Have you had enough opportunity to review all of the evidence that is out there connected to this incident?
I can't say that I've reviewed all the evidence. I have reviewed a substantial amount of the evidence at this point.
President
Seen the
Jones,
videos?
there's,
Have you seen the videos, President Jones?
I've seen the one that's been reported in the news.
When did you first see the videos?
I can't remember. What date was that?
Were you involved in the DA's office? Did you see it that day?
No. I was not involved in the DA office. We were not involved.
So just to be clear, the only way that you've seen the videos is through news reports that have used portions of those videos?
I've seen the news report, and then, of course, in meeting with the police, they gave us a brief overview of the CDTA tape initially as the information became available, and it was just very preliminary review of what possibly could have transpired. But as I think all of you know, the police worked with the DA's office, the crime lab, to really do a better job of trying to figure out what those videos actually showed. And I think that's what was released to you once the investigation was finished.
According
President
to
Jones.
through the code of conduct, will these women be suspended or expelled if
It is
they are
not
found
for me
guilty?
to say. I can't comment on what the outcome will be. All I can refer you to our website. You can read the code of conduct for yourselves. But by law, I can't comment on the individuals involved in the code of conduct review process or what potential outcomes might be.
President
I'm
Jones.
sorry. I know that sounds kind of odd to you, but that's the way the statutes are written.
Typically, how long would this review take place?
It depends on the case. There's no set time frame. These things are done very methodically. They work their way through, and this is being handled very systematically. as we handle all code of conduct issues.
But with no bearing on what happens in court.
Absolutely not.
There have been numerous references to the student who was threatened and withdrew, but to
Yeah.
your knowledge, was he ever enrolled this semester?
I'm not aware. I don't know the details of that. I'm sorry.
President Jones, Jeff Reddick from Time Warner Cable News.
Yes, Jeff, how are
Thanks
you?
for having us. Has there been any guidance or communication with you to and from Nancy Zimfer or the SUNY's higher administration regarding this?
Guidance? No. I think the chancellor trusts me to lead this university as she has since she hired me. We have been keeping her and, of course, all of her staff updated to the best of our knowledge about this incident since it transpired.
Dave Lucas with WAMC. Was the young woman, the 19-year-old who was identified in the report as the actual victim, if you will, of the attack, is she a SUNY student?
She's not one of our students. That's all I can tell you about the situation. She's not a University of Albany student.
One more question.
President Jones, Haley DeCarlo, do you plan to work with CDTA in the future to ensure if any sort of incident comes up that maybe you'd be able to come up with a way to handle it while it's ongoing on a bus?
I'm not exactly sure how that would work. The bus runs on our campus only for a short time period. We have no jurisdiction once the bus gets on city streets. We have, I think our police chief has had conversations with the CDTA people about, if there have been any incident or issues on these buses that we need to be concerned about. So that was our first response, was to try to talk to CDTA to see what previously may have occurred that we need to be concerned about. And I know that's kind of an ongoing part of our due diligence to make sure that the buses are safe. And as I've said, the bus is an important part of our mechanism of getting our students back and forth. And as far as we know, they're a safe form of transportation.